Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to learn about honorific particles. Just as some nouns and verbs have honorific versions, some particles also have honorific particles, and these can be used together with honorific speech, such as the 으시다 suffix. Here are 3 honorific particles that you need to know. The topic marker can become 개서는. The subject marker can become 개서. And 에게, meaning to or from, can become 게. Again, these honorific particles are also only attached after someone else. And note, these are only used after a person, never an animal or a thing. So then, when do you use these honorific particles? Well, you actually don't need to use them even when you're using honorific speech, but you might want to. Doing so shows even more respect towards someone else. Not using honorific particles when the rest of your speech uses a lot of honorific speech can at times sound incomplete. So, use them whenever you're already speaking exclusively using honorific speech. Again, adding these particles will make your speech sound even more polite. However, when you're mixing honorific speech together with the regular yo form, therefore making your speech polite but not extremely polite, these honorific particles are not absolutely necessary to add. And we'll learn about mixing politeness levels in a later lesson. So let's talk about each of these particles one at a time, starting with the honorific version of the topic marker, 개서는. You'll use the regular topic marker, 은 or 는, when you're talking about yourself or your acquaintances as usual. And you can use 개서는 when talking about anyone else who you would want to use honorific speech toward. Here are some examples. 우리 할머니께서는 한국에서 살고 계세요. My grandmother is living in Korea. 회장님께서는 어떻게 생각하세요? What do you think, President? 사장님께서는 조금 전에 나가셨어요. The boss left a little while ago. 아버지께서는 식사 중이세요. My father is in the middle of a meal. Next, 개서 is the honorific version of the subject marker, so you'll use 이 or 가 as usual when you're talking about your friends or acquaintances or yourself, and you can use 개서 to talk about other people who you would want to show extra respect toward. So this would be anyone who you would want to use honorific speech toward. Here are some examples. 사장님께서 사무실에 안 계세요. The boss is not in their office. 선생님께서 오늘 많이 피곤하신가 봐요. I guess the teacher is very tired today. 할아버지께서 TV를 보고 계세요. Grandfather is watching TV. 재림 씨께서 알려주셨어요. Jerim told me. And last but not least, we have 게. 게 is the honorific version of the particle 에게 or 에게서, and it means both to and from. You'll use 에게 or 에게서 when you're talking about yourself or your acquaintances as usual, and you can use 게 when you're talking about anyone else who you would want to use honorific speech toward. Here are some examples. 이건 선생님께 보내야 돼요. I have to send this to the teacher. 사장님께 이야기했어요? Did you tell the boss? 선생님께 물어보고 싶었어요. I wanted to ask the teacher. 그 차트는 주연 씨께 보여주세요. Show that chart to 주연. Note that this 게 can also replace the informal particle 안테 or 안테서, which has the same meaning. Before we take a look at some notes, let's go over this listening practice. This is an event for Teacher's Day and the host is announcing the first speaker. 다음은 김만기 선생님께서 은사님께 전하는 편지를 낭독하시겠습니다. Next, Kim Mangi, who's a teacher, will be reciting a letter for a teacher. Note that the word 은사님 is an even more polite word for 선생님. So likely, this will be a letter that Kim Mangi wrote to their own teacher. 김만기 선생님께서는 우리 학교를 졸업하신 후 40년간 국제 변호사로 활동하고 계십니다. 김만기 has been active, 활동하다, as an international lawyer for 40 years, after or since graduating from our school. 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. I hope that you will welcome him with a big applause.
다음은 김만기 선생님께서 은사님께 전하는 편지를 낭독하시겠습니다. 김만기 선생님께서는 우리 학교를 졸업하신 후 40년간 국제 변호사로 활동하고 계십니다. 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다.
Next, try to do this quick quiz. You can pause the video here and resume it when you're ready for the answers. Here are the answers. The first one is false. Honorific particles should always be used whenever you're using honorific speech about someone else. As we learned, that's not true, and you don't have to use them. The next question is true. There are 3 honorific particles to learn: 개소는, 개소, and 개. And the last question is false. Honorific particles can also be attached after a thing that belongs to someone who you want to show extra respect toward. Actually, honorific particles should not be attached after a thing, but only after a person. Note that not only what you say, but how you say it is important. Even honorific speech could still sound rude if it's used with a completely serious tone, for example, like a robot, or if it's used sarcastically in an inappropriate situation. For example, a smiling and enthusiastic beginner speaking too casually towards someone older will not be taken as offensively as a proficient speaker using polite speech in a rude tone. So keep in mind that the amount of politeness that you use directly affects how your Korean feels overall. Show appropriate expressions or body language to help express yourself more clearly. Also, one more thing. Note that this particle, 개소, itself is actually a separate particle. It's not simply a replacement for the subject marker. Because of that, you also may find the combination 개소도, which is 개소 plus 도. So this lesson concludes our review of honorific speech, and starting in the next lesson, we're going to learn about humble speech as well as how to use that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!